Okay. Calling to order the regular meeting of the council for December 12th, 2023. I do have just a brief opening remark tonight to acknowledge the passing of longtime past councilor Peter Kennedy, who unfortunately passed away yesterday afternoon. He served multiple terms on town council for a total of 13 years, and his past commitment is acknowledged and appreciated by everyone. I would also like to acknowledge the passing of Dale Allen, who passed away yesterday as well. Dale is extremely well known in our community and was inducted into our Sports Wall of Fame in 1999. So our thoughts are with their families, and we wanted to take this moment to thank them for all they've done for our community in the past. So on that, next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda, which we have no additions to. So I would ask for a motion that the agenda for the regular public council meeting dated December 12th, 2023 be approved, I guess. Little note in there. Moved by Councillor Williams, seconded by Councillor McCartney. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. Does anyone have any conflict of interest to declare? Hearing none, we will move on. So we have two sets of minutes to approve tonight. The first one is approval of the minutes of our regular council meeting, November 28th. Could I get a motion for approval of the minutes of 2028 as distributed? Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Leach. Does anyone have any questions on that set of minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. Second set of minutes is the from the CIC meeting that was also on November 28th. Could I get a motion to approve the CIC minutes of November 28th, 2023 as distributed? Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Martin. Anybody have any questions on that set of minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. So the next item on the agenda is business arising from the minutes, and we do have an item tonight, which is third reading of the BIA levy. So, Laura, are you helping me with this one?
Yes.
Good.
Title or its entirety?
Are you going to do it entirely?
Okay. Yeah.
It's up to you.
What?
How do we have it worded though?
We have it
By title.
where it's the
Okay.
third.
Yes. So we only need to read this one by title. So you go ahead.
Sure. So the motion would be third reading by title for bylaw L-1.22, a bylaw to impose a levy on non-residential property within the Woodstock Business Improvement Area.
Anybody want to move that? Moved by Councillor Williams, seconded by Councillor Bradbury. Any further questions on that? Everybody remembers it was 20 cents. So same as last year, yeah. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. Okay, next item on the agenda is item number 8, CAO update, to which we decided to hold off on that for tonight because we've got lots to kind of go over, and we had lots of updates from the CAO. Nothing extraordinarily new for you this week, so we're going to move on from that. So under new business, the first one is the discussion of the municipal and zoning bylaw amendments. So we just had the public hearing tonight. I'm going to ask Director of Development and Planning, Andrew Garner, just to pop up in case anybody has any questions, and he can reiterate, similar to Jen and obviously we don't even have on this agenda the item to do first and second reading, but do you want to share your thoughts on what?
Yeah, certainly,
Yeah.
thank you. There's been, as folks know, a lot of information handed your way in the last 2 weeks, 2 months. There's a lot to get your mind around. So, and found out Friday that perhaps we wouldn't do first and second reading this evening. That was a possibility. I know that made myself, I thought it was a good idea. Jen echoed that earlier, only because there is a lot there, and I'm sure there's a lot of questions could come from this. And I just think it's, we have lots of time. We have back 6 months from tonight now to do third reading. So it's not necessary to, there's one option would be to do first and second reading tonight, and then all the changes that could come, comments for third reading. But since we have lots of time, I would suggest that we would wait. And I think between now and when we do first reading, that perhaps we just have a meeting ourselves. It's legal, it's a legal document, so we can have that meeting, and we can open it up and ask questions at that time. In fact, we don't have to wait until then. If you have any questions, send them my way so that we could have prepare answers for you immediately, and also for that time that we decide to meet. So lots of time, and again, there's 72 or so changes with it. So even though the plan, the bylaw is only 3 years old, there's a lot of changes with it, and we won't be doing this again in 2030. So it's a long time to make sure that's right. Earlier today, I was doing some searches on some properties that I felt was just looked at 3 properties, and I found 2 that felt the same. So again, we have the third reading, make those changes, but another round looking at the zoning, this will plan that is getting
I 100% agree, because I know I have lots of questions and I really want to go through it and take my time. And this is a really busy time of year. We've been pushing very hard. We've had a lot of budget conversations. So I think everybody was in agreement. And if it's okay, I would like to propose that at our first meeting in January, we do that meeting to give, if everybody's ready to do, have the meeting, on the legal meeting and committee of the whole to sit and discuss and maybe walk through. I really want to encourage everybody to take the next 4 weeks, comb through it. As Andrew mentioned, submit questions that you have as you don't have to wait until then to submit them, but at least it gives us a night to really kind of focus on that and discuss that. And I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
You saw on the slide deck show that some of them we found out just in the last
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
Some possible aspects. One, the Curly Cabin property, one that's been in the queue for quite a long time, but it's been waiting for part of the town limits. So there will be some under the council that know about it, and others that don't know. And we want to make sure that even publicly the projects are not go on the way. It's not potentially 3 buildings, 30 units each. It will be part of the changes we do with the zoning bylaw, but there's still a public process with that we have to do our due diligence and make sure that they're.
So then we can judge on that meeting if we feel like the second meeting in January, we can potentially do first and second reading, or if we need to wait, if there's still too many questions and we don't have answers, then we'll just gauge as we go. As Andrew mentioned, we do have, and I think you even suggested earlier that the 1st of February seemed like a very feasible, logical kind of time to aim for first and second reading. So does anyone have any questions for Andrew at this time?
And I had 3 or 4 things. We had a conversation about some concerns that I had on them. I hadn't seen anything reflected, so I didn't know what we were doing with those, or is that a conversation for January?
We can definitely discuss those. daycares.
Yeah, it was the R1 regular use with daycares, as well as some of the new home regular uses and a little bit of water meter considerations on some of the gardener secondary suites.
Yes, so it's in regards to, say, the daycare part, that the changes, they're still as is in the document. But definitely, if we have those blocks here, we were deciding that could be a potential change. The water meter one, or the metering, if you will, for the people on the utility.
Mhm.
Bylaw.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, thank you. Okay, so next item under new business is the 2024 council schedule. So we're sticking with our current path, and that's been helpful, I think, to those in the media that are trying to attend multiple meetings. The councils in the region have tried to shuffle around each other, whether some are on Mondays, some are on Tuesdays, and some are on the first and third, and some are on the second and fourth. So I feel like we've got a good pattern there, and so we're just going to keep rolling with how we were. So that's at least the first half of the year on your calendars. So I think for the most part, we have found that this room does work for us, but that doesn't mean we won't still go out and venture out to some of the other wards on occasion. So we will still do a bit of that in the new year and intend to. So, okay. Any questions or comments on that schedule? It's already in your calendars. Okay. Moving on to item 9.3, municipal budget. Oh boy, that's the big one. Okay. And Councillor Martin and I co-chaired the finance committee. And so apparently I drew the short straw this year, and I am presenting the budget that the finance committee has approved that our director of finance, Jennifer Crabb, did such a great job of putting together for us. So she is here in case there's a question that comes up that I can't answer. But overall, I would say that it was a lot of work, I think, with where we stood from looking at year 2023 into 2024. But the finance committee was certainly happy with what was presented and agreed that it should be hopefully passed tonight. So I'm going to start, I think, with, I know everybody's going to want to know really largely how it affects their taxes, but we are going to give a good just overview of the budget breakdown. So I'm going to stay fairly high level. Once the budget's submitted, hopefully tomorrow, and gets approved by the province, then that will become public record and the document will be shared with the general public in the new year. So we'll stick kind of higher level tonight. And council, all of council, I believe, and Julie, I know you didn't get quite as much time on this, but we've all seen these numbers, so nothing's changed since the last numbers that you've seen. So right now we are looking at a budget in total of $16.646 million and $600. So it's sixes in there, but so that's an increase for sure for us year over year. And I will say straight off the bat, it's largely all operational. So we did focus a lot as a council this year in looking at our organization structure. We did spend significant time and energy working with the directors and working with the staff to do workplace assessments and analysis. And that did kind of reveal some areas where we felt more bodies were needed or more structure was needed, and some structural changes in the organization. So that really largely takes all of the additional kind of budget amount year over year. So on that note, I will say the revenue from the property taxes this year is increased. So this year, our warrant from property taxes is $14,163,000 and change. So essentially, that is due. So we had about $1 million increase over our tax warrant from last year, due to about an approximate 9% overall increase in assessed values for homes and businesses. So for residents that are going to hear this, they will see, as a lot of people on average will see, approximately a 9% increase on average across the board on what their house is assessed at this year. So that did in itself give us almost everything we needed in order to carry the budget we felt we need. However, we did have a bit of a shortfall, and a large portion of that, as we go through the breakdown of expenses, you'll see fell to protective services. So if we go through the expenses in general, under general government services, the budget, which includes, that's your legislative, so that's us, general admin, and our community grants fund, which is, there's a lot of that funds or some of that funding is already spoken for in some of the MUs that we have. And we've also allocated some for the former LSD rec community centers that have always been supported. So, but there is in that 115 still the ability for some net new support and projects, and we will be addressing that in the new year. So the grand total for general government services is $1.6,058,450. Protective services, which is our police, so that's town police, Woodstock Police Force, and RCMP, and fire. And then there's another category that also includes our bylaw enforcement, building inspections, animal control, a couple other smaller things. The total for the policing is this year, you ready, Jim? $5,293,076. So there's a substantial uptick there, and I will speak to that. Fire is approximately the same with $1,020,529, and the other category is $113,417. So protective services is a huge chunk of our budget. As it always is, that's no different. But I'm going to finish the summary, and then we'll come back and discuss protective services in more detail. So the transportation services section, which is largely public works, is the budget there for expenses is $2,125,574. So that's a big expense area, but it covers a lot, has a lot of staffing and employees. So, and that's not overly different from any other year's budget, other than we do have some additional wages built into public works. So I'll break that down as well. Environmental health services section, which is basically solid waste, is a 1.2 million and change budget. So that's a huge amount. And I know we had some discussions a little while ago about the potential for looking at solid waste. And that amount is the combined both the collection of the waste and also the transfer fees, the disposal that the Regional Service Commission handles. So that's everything together. I will say on the Regional Service Commission side, there was an increase this year of about $82,000 or $85,000 on the Regional Service Commission side. So there was a bit of an increase overall on solid waste. I think back to the conversation about looking at ways to maybe reduce our costs. I know the CAO is actively working with the RSC and our vendors that do our pickup to look at how we're going to move forward. I think preliminarily, we just really weren't in a position to do much this year because of how all the contracts are lumped together. They need to be kind of broken apart, which is being looked at, and the RSC is actively doing that. So I think through 2024, we will be exploring further the solid waste piece. So whether by the end of that year we can find some other method or ways to do this and do it cheaper, that would be the objective. But that's our cost this year. The environmental development services, which is our development and planning, our community and social development, economic development, and tourism is all lumped in there. That amount is all in is $685,873. So the next category is recreational and cultural service, and that category does include the library. That amount is, which again, I think the biggest factor in there is obviously the Air Motor Center. That's our big expense. So that whole group is $3,531,771. So it's a big amount. There are some, again, I'll break down where the extra bodies are and the extra positions. There are some within that area as well. And then the last is our fiscal services, which is basically our debt, can we say? Which we have, that totals $1,017,050. So that gives us a total expense to match our total revenue of $16,646,600. So if I can go back to, we'll do utility, I think, at the end after I go through maybe some of the breakdown on what's also in our budget, which is this budget gives us about $350,000 for capital expenses. If we add in what we've already allocated for the police, we have allocated a vehicle in there. So part of, and I'm going to flip to my notes, part of the Evergreen program that Chief Ford has implemented, which we have just followed all along, roughly it equals a car a year. And that's to keep cars from getting into a state of disrepair or just not being reliable. So car in the fleet this year, number 33, is the one on the block to be replaced. So all of the equipment from that vehicle is being reused in the new one. So we're really buying the shell and taking all of the equipment and the lights out of it. And then we will deem that the old vehicle number 33 as surplus. And when it's deemed stripped properly and allowed to be sold, we will sell it. And we estimate that may be worth around $15,000 to $20,000. And that money goes back to our regular funds. So again, that vehicle, just so you're aware, has about 160,000 kilometers on it. That's kind of the target range that they're looking at in their Evergreen program. So I wanted to make sure everybody was kind of aware that's been an ongoing thing. It's, I think, our real only true asset management sector that we have that works how it should. And we can tell the next few years exactly what we're going to be spending on police vehicles. So a few of the other items for policing, there is an allocation for a fingerprint scanning. It's an electronic fingerprint scanning and identification of criminals device, and otherwise known as a mugshot. So it's a new device for them to be able to do electronic fingerprint scanning and mug shots, and that's to be able to allow them to better share things with other organizations that they deal with. The other really big expense on the policing is we allocated in the budget this year 3 additional positions. So we talk a lot, or Chief Ford talks a lot about reactive versus proactive policing, and so 2 of these positions will be for a newly created community engagement unit. And I think at our public forum, which we had good participation last night, which pretty much all of us were there for that are in the room. That was a really good, valuable evening where we collaborated with the town police and the RCMP together with community. And the purpose of the community engagement unit is simply that. They will be engaging on a regular basis with businesses, with the community, to try and ensure that we're working together and doing everything we can all in to keep our own properties safe and to be watching out for each other. So those 2 positions will be added during this next 2024 year. The 3rd position will be an addition to the already existing but new street crime unit. This position is focused largely on intimate partner violence, recognizing that there has been a large increase year over year and significant year over year that the group really strongly felt we needed to put someone dedicated to that. Those calls are not easy. And they're averaging, just in the Ward 4 Woodstock, almost 1 per day. So it's a significant amount of resources. They have some strategies moving forward to involve public health, which I think will be really good. So that will be an individual that will be working to engage almost virtually, I understand, public health, so they can decide in the moment on a call if someone needs to just be transferred to, let's say, the hospital, or if we need to have someone from mental health attend on site. So I think that position will be of great value. So that all of those items all in equate a fairly substantial lift on our budget this year. So as a result, Ward 4 will see a 5-cent increase on their taxes. I will announce at this point too, for wards 1, 2, 3, and 5, we decided to take a net or almost net neutral approach with the taxes this year. This council has agreed. We've been talking about a lot. We've been talking about it with the CAO. He's already working full steam ahead on this, as is Jennifer. From the finance side, this 2024 is a year to dig and review and ensure that all of the practices we are doing are to the best benefit of the taxpayer, employees. So we're reviewing everything. And I know we all know there's money to be had there. So we're going to put pressure on ourselves this year to kind of clean up our own house and make sure we've scraped everything, because we know that there are some things that we can adjust and change and reveal some more money for us to be able to use without having to go to property tax. I'm also hopeful that the province will finally unveil fiscal reform, which has not been done yet, and they've acknowledged. And so hopefully with that, we will see additional revenue. So the net neutral tax rate for wards 1, 2, 3, and 5 is 70 cents. So there will be that same additional 41. It's 41. Where are we here? 4115. So just slightly over 41 cents. So added in, the outside wards will pay $1 and just under $1.11 1/2. So that means that a few of the wards will see a 0.5 cent decrease. Some of them will see a 0.5 cent increase. But essentially, we felt it was a good opportunity to just give everyone the same tax rate and just give it a nice even. I hate talking in quarter and half cents, so we picked 70 cents because it was pretty well net neutral. I think on a $16 million budget, it might have given us an extra $30,000 or something. So I consider that net neutral. So with the extra 5 cents, just so everybody's aware, that gave us basically an extra $300,000 to really fund our capital budget, if we want to look at it from that standpoint. So I know this question might get asked, so I'm just going to answer it. On average for, let's say, Ward 4, Jen, you correct me if I'm wrong, it's about $66,000 every penny? Per penny. So when we raise taxes, it really takes a lot because even though we're a growing community, we're still relatively small overall. So I think at the end of the day, it's always hard to raise taxes, but Ward 4 did not get an increase last year. And it's been a stable rate for quite some time. So Ward 4 is being increased. So they will be paying $1.50. Everyone else in the outside is 70 cents. So that gives us a good clean inside outside. Before I keep rambling, does anybody have any questions on that yet?
About 5 cent increase, that's pretty well, that's community personnel.
Yeah, so really the additional million, so really the tax warrant and the increase gives us an extra 1.363. So an extra $1,360,000 in additional revenue. That's largely all operational for the most part. And then it still gives us 350,000-ish for capital. Yeah. So again, we're putting ourselves on the spot here this year to see what we can do to affect a few changes that will give us a little bit more money on the operational side without having to rely on additional tax increases. I will say we are going to rely heavily again this year to do some of the work we need to do, buy some of the things we need to buy on the CCBF, so the Canada Community Building Fund, which we expect combined from past money that's carrying over, which we do want to clean up this year. We're going to use it all. We've got to figure this out, but we don't want to be leaving money that could be spent on things unspent. But with what we expect, maybe we'll get a nice surprise because we do not actually know what the next, and I think Jen or Andrew, maybe you could confirm, but it would be 2024 to, is it a 4-year or 5? 29. So we have not seen the 2024 to 2029 numbers come out for CCBF yet. So, but we anticipate the combined total being about 600,000 this year.
What, do we have any idea when we'll just a guess?
We should know. We haven't heard. I would expect before the province finalizes their budget, you would assume. So sometime here in the first quarter of the new year, we would assume we would see that. But I don't know. That may not. Yeah. 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 So it could be a while, but at least we would assume based on past the amount. So all in, that gives us slightly over $1 million this year. We would probably spend every penny, which is okay. That's what it's there to do. We know we have lots of things we want to do, roads we want to fix, equipment we want to purchase. So we'll spend it all quite easily, I would say. As far as new positions, again, back to the operational costs, we would We do have allocation for new positions in public works that are meant to be seasonal because we have a lot of work to do on the utility side that public works needs to supplement. So utility is going to be tearing up and replacing a significant number, hopefully, of valves this year, which the public works team will be aiding with that, and also doing all of their other regular things. So we did allocate for 3 extra positions there. We are working through the details of what they're going to shape out and look like, and need to be probably talking with the union to sort all this out. Are they going to be non-union or union? And we need flexibility if they're going to be union positions. I'll be very honest about that. So we need these positions to be affordable for us in order to put them in. So if we can't get there, they won't be hired. So we will say that up front. The other is we have done some hiring on the administrative side. Obviously, we added director of HR position. I think that new deputy chief was new this year on the policing side. And again, we did some shuffling around. We added a new director. So we split Greg Stokes' role. He was the former director of Public Works and Utility. He's now just a director of Public Works. And we had hired John Lyons as the director of Utility. So Greg's full wages are now all in Public Works, and we have shuffled some staffing around that are under Utility, and we'll talk about Utility next. Other than that, I think yeah, go ahead.
So if you could give the example of what the 5 cents is going to work out to with
Yep, a home.
Yeah.
So if I'm a homeowner and I've got a $200,000 home, basically a 5-cent increase in Ward 4 is $50 per 100,000. So if I've got a $200,000 home, it would be an extra $100. And if I've got a $300,000 home, we can do the math and add the additional $100. So I would say if we look year over year, Jennifer gave me a little guide here. I think everybody saw this, but in Ward 4, let's go a $350,000 home last year without an assessment increase, mind you. A $5,000 or a $350,000 home, the taxes were $5,075. This year, a $350,000 home would be $5,250. So that's the increase for Ward 4. Again, the rest of the wards are basically negligible changes based on the fact we did a net neutral rate. Some people will see a slight decrease and some an increase, maybe $25 here and there, roughly. So now, I'm not saying that they're not going to see an increase because, again, assessed values from Service New Brunswick went up. So people may see increases not as a result of anything we've done. So, and people have not seen those yet. This is the first year, reminding public that usually you would have received what that assessment would have looked like in October. Those are now coming out effective this year and moving forward in January. So Happy New Year, everyone, but you'll know what you're paying or what your assessed values are in January. So I don't think anyone, until they get that, will really know what the impact is for them. And that's different than in past, but at least you'll know roughly kind of the cost. Does that answer your question? Okay. Anyone else have any questions so far overall? I'm going to give you just an idea quickly on the RSC, because the RSC, again, that is new. So we had our first budget last year, and the variance this year between the increase from last year to this year for us, for the RSC, is about $81,000, and that can all be contributed to solid waste. So I will say the CEO, Caitlin McGrath, did an extraordinarily good job of getting every piece of funding dollar this year she possibly could. So it really actually reduced costs for us in some categories and slight increases in others. So they balanced out. It was all the other categories all in were a reduction year over year. So that budget has not yet been passed. That will go to the board tomorrow night. I don't really anticipate any major challenge there, but we will see. We expect that budget to be passed tomorrow night. But for a breakdown, just so everybody has an idea, solid waste, so the RSC budgeted amount that we pay the RSC in total is $619,000 and change. So again, the biggest portion of that is solid waste at $522,000 and change. The next biggest amount for us would be tourism. So we are paying the Regional Service Commission for tourism this year $35,608. Economic development is $15,927. Community development is $22,377. I'm going to flag that and come back. Transportation services is literally $1,898. Public services, rec and culture is public services is $10,983, and rec, culture, infrastructure support and development is $9,905. The amounts are relatively low in some of these categories because these are new to the regional service commissions, and some of these categories do not yet have a mandate. So some of this money is largely to fund strategic planning for those categories. So brace ourselves, because moving forward after this year, you would anticipate that these categories would increase. But we will see what the strategic plans reveal and what intent they have with areas like transportation. The community development piece is largely the one that, for the record, and that kind of made the presses last week at our Union of Municipalities meeting. It was passed by the members there to push or lobby the province, and that action has already been taken to either remove that mandate from the regional service commissions or have the province fund it. So we will see what happens with that this year. So we got off pretty good. Other regional service commissions struggled, I think, to pass budgets where they were a little further ahead than us in some categories, and maybe those new expenses came. We can expect to see a lot of the funding we've been able to capitalize on so far disappear. A lot of it next year. Some there'll still be opportunity. So we could expect to see that jump next year. I just simply have no idea what that's going to look like. So right now it's net neutral. So in the finance committee meetings, there really was no concern over the budgets, and we didn't pass any concerns or comments forward to the RSC. So I will be voting in favor of that tomorrow night, for the record, for you tonight. Go ahead.
Just that'll be a public document.
Yep. Yep.
Will that be on our website too?
I think it'll be on the Regional Service Commission's website. I don't know. They will send it to all of us. We will all get a copy. But I'm not sure that we'll put it on ours. I'll ask that if that's expected, or that's what they want us to do. I don't think we did. Not sure if anyone did that last year, but
No, that has to be passed and everything before you put
correct.
our budget, right?
Well, at this point, no. We're gonna have to push our budget through, because if it doesn't pass, we can't wait. So should something change, it wouldn't be significant, so we would just have to adjust our budget accordingly. So if we get a reduction, that's easy, good. That's extra money. If it's a bit extra in one category, if they came back and made an adjustment to economic development. It costs us an extra 5,000. Jennifer will, figure it out. Right, Jen? But I think everybody's fairly confident that there'll be no significant changes. No one, there was a 45-day period open for people to air concerns and comments. So it came back yesterday. Here was based on no feedback. Here's the budget. So I don't anticipate any major changes. If anything, it'd be pushed back. So it should be in our favor, I would think. So, any further questions on any of that?
So can you give an example of the taxpayer, an example of, everybody understands the waste part of the budget, $100,000 a year, whatever. But the other figures you gave, like tourism, recreation, food development, that sort of thing. Can you give us an example, if taxpayers an example of what the RSC does for that, for what we're paying for?
So I'm going to start with the easy ones. So tourism, the mandate is largely to help promote us as a region. I do like the tourism approach. I think it's going to work in particular for our region because we're all rural. We don't have a big city center that's driving tourism that has a huge budget. So our budgets are small. We still have our same tourism budget internally. So we do our own promotion, but we did go, I would say the tourism component is the furthest ahead. We actually have a strategic plan that has been passed and is being acted on. So I don't know if we received the final copy of that to share with you, but I will get that to you so that you can see what the strategic plan is. Because there are a lot of items on it that are really of value. And I think that for 35,000, now if that cost starts to skyrocket, yeah, that's just what Woodstock's paying. So the amounts I mentioned are so the 619,000 and change is Woodstock's piece. However, we have the biggest piece of the pie because we would have the biggest tax rate. So it's all based on they take their amount. So if their cost is 100,000, they split that up amongst all of the municipalities in our region based on our tax rates. That's how that gets determined. So the only thing we aren't participating as a municipality in that most of the others are, or all of the others would be development and planning. So we do not pay them for that service, which if you recall, when we investigated that, it was around, probably would have cost about 350,000, close to it. So that bumps the total. So we'd be talking close to $1 million, or if we used that. So we don't do that. So we have our own. As far as the next really easy one, which is relatively cheap for us right now, is transportation services. That is urban rural rides. So that's our amount to help kind of fund that. I think there's some, there'll be some action items on all of them for strategic plans because they're required by the province to have a strategic plan for everything. We just don't really know beyond urban rural rides. There's no real other plan. And actually that is so cheap because it's not still really being a focus this year. As a region, we're entirely rural. So the notion that they're going to bring in a big bus system or some type of public transportation system is not on the radar. So I don't know what else will be done there. Economic development. So the Regional Service Commission for Tourism has a staff member. So they hired their own internal, the Regional Service Commission, as you've heard the word Ignite lots. So the Regional Service Commission hired Ignite for a 5-year contract to fulfill the economic development services. That took a little bit of time to get ramped up this year. So they're really just getting kind of steam rolling and getting going. So this will be a big year for them. I think it's a big year for us to better understand exactly what we're going to do, but or how that's going to roll. But they are there to work with the businesses and promote our region and help bring businesses in. And so there's an advantage for us for there because we don't have anyone on staff dedicated to really focus on economic development. So for $15,927 this year, we're getting a good bang for our buck. Now, I think there's lots of funding wrapped around that, so we could expect that amount to change, but that's that. Community development, we kind of argued. I think everybody's questioning in the province that one. So we need to see what they're going to present as their answer and mandate for that. Public services, that's largely, sorry, and I think I put public there and it's supposed to be protective. So the Regional Service Commission is supposed to play a role in helping us kind of engage together and collaborate at that level on police and fire. But there really hasn't been a lot of movement there, hence we didn't pay much for it last year. We're not paying much for it again this year. Again, that's $10,983,000. That's largely towards trying to figure out strategically what they're going to do. Rec, culture, infrastructure support, again, the funding there is largely for a strategic plan. I think it's all active transportation. All of that money, all in, is to fund a study on trails. So they are going to try and take a big active role in the trail system in our region, which is a good thing for all of us. I think that's great. Probably a slow start because this year is the study. So that money is to fund that study. Not so great answers, eh? But that's all I've got. I tried. But again, I think we've got to be patient. This is all really new. Last year, to think that they were going to, and I think we saw that largely with economic development. They came busting out of the gate. We were going to have this, this, and this, and these people in place. The goal was by April, they were up and rolling, and that just did not happen. So it was really summer before people were put in places and after that, and they're still building that team today. So, but we do have business development officers locally now, and that they're up and rolling, and not really a conflict of interest, but Councillor Williams is a business developer for Ignite. So, and I know that Ignite's been out. They've had meetings with every community now, mayor, council, business members. They have a plan moving forward to do continual meetings. And so I think we'll better understand some of these categories for sure at the end of this year. Some of them, I don't know. We've got to give them time to figure out what are they supposed to be doing. And again, there's already advocacy to remove it, so we don't know what'll happen there. So if it gets removed, maybe we get our money back.
One final question on
Yep.
the board. Have they ever discussed the reserve share of that 195
Well, somebody else owns that, right? So that has been purchased, so we can't ever, unless we want to buy it back, reclaim it, so to speak. But largely across the province, most municipalities just abandon that model, just because people tend to do a lot of things online. There still is brochures. A lot of people still like to have that printed version of, the travel guide that comes out every year. But so no, not to my knowledge, but we'll see what comes up. I will share the strategic plan. It is really well done. They are going to do a big branding exercise. I truly feel that is going to be of benefit for everyone. Barb Sharp is the director. If you have not seen her out, then you are not getting out because she is at everything. So she's spent the entire year going to everything. Again, she's trying to work with all the municipalities and the Tobys of the world, who is our director of HR, to not have everything land on the same weekend as best they can. There's only so much we can do there because, again, our summer season is short. And so there's only so many weekends and there's always going to be some overlap, but they're working really hard to try and capture what's happening in the region as a whole for events, trying to work with everybody. So she's got a group that meets. They've largely shouldered the eclipse, though all the municipalities, or us in particular, have our own team kind of working on that. The Regional Service Commission is playing a really big role in that. So, okay. Does anybody else have any questions on that either? I think we'll have a better I'll have a better answer for you next year this time. If not, you won't be the only one with comments. Let's put it that way. So I think that's the summary overall on that. Make sure I covered everything. Did I miss anything? Oh, utility. Yes, let's discuss utility. So in a nutshell, for ease, the utility has a budget of just over $2 million. So $2,062,647. And of that obviously gave us some additional, so we did get some additional revenue by the changeover that we made this year to move to a flat rate fee structure. However, because we chose to do a tiered structure, it did not give us a tremendous amount of additional revenue. So after, and again, if we remember, we hired a new director of utility. So his whole wage is in there now, where that was a shared cost before. We have also budgeted for 3, similar to the public works, for 3 seasonal workers for utility, and also 2 students that we're hoping to find. So if anybody out there is in civil tech or civil engineering program and is available for the summer, we are trying to, John would like to start a mapping program, which is needed desperately so that we can get a handle on everything that's under the ground, ensure that it's up to date and mapped. Dylan Consulting had gotten us to a point, and some of that needs to be updated, and we just need to get it all in a format and in software that's going to be user-friendly for them so that we have a better idea of what's under the ground. So John actually anticipates that probably taking potentially 3 years, 3 summers to do. But we will, with Amy's help, our director of HR, see if there's funding options out there to get some support for those positions. But in any case, we've budgeted for them. So if we get funding, great. That gives us extra capital money to play with. And then if, again, same discussion as before, we need these positions to be financially feasible for us. So discussion on union versus non-union positions and how that will go will dictate whether we can hire them. But we desperately need them. And I will say, on the 6 positions between utility and public works, there have been rule changes on WorkSafe NB side that is requiring, for some level of work, additional bodies. So we really are extraordinarily tight on being able to meet safety requirements. And we can't be that moving forward. And CAO, I will give you, if you want to jump in at any time, you go right ahead. But at this point in time, we must ensure everybody has all the training they need and that we are following WorkSafe guidelines to a T. No, yeah.
If I may, a lot of
Yeah.
the utilities work is done in confined spaces. And the province has made recommendations for additional manpower and rescue teams available in confined spaces, and we tend to meet or exceed that. That was our plan.
Yeah.
So we're working on that training, checking the compliance of our equipment, and just ensuring that we understand what we need to do for that compliance piece work.
So as an example, the requirement was 3 for rescue even,
For entry.
for entry, and 5 now for entry.
Yeah.
So the new rule or the new recommendation is 5. So I hear that comment all the time, why are there so many people standing around a hole? That is why. There's a requirement by WorkSafe NB to have that many people monitoring a confined space. So I'm not saying that's exactly why some people may be standing around every instance, but there are work safe requirements to have so many bodies there for safety for everything. So we need to be in compliance on that, and we know that moving ahead, that's going to mean additional people that we are really tight on trying to do. And we know we have a lot of confined space work this summer, and that's going to require a certain amount of people trained in rescue. So that's a struggle for the director of utilities right now, to be honest, to get some work done. We're struggling to be able to actually do the work because we just don't have the coverage. So we need to ensure that that we're there, and we are actively hiring. So we think we maybe might have a body
Yes.
in place this week. And do you want to share any details on that yet, or we'll wait until the new year? Let's wait till it's signed, sealed, and dealed.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there has been an offer on one position, which is net new, really to replace, let's say, Harold Boomer's role, in fairness. So I think on all that note, we really, after operational increases, we're left with 200,000 in capital. So I know everybody felt that the jump for the water increases was large and unnecessary, but I think when we look at the budget that we have and what we have left to play with, it's not a whole lot. What I will say is we do have 380,000 in operating reserves. So we will be using all of that. We also have in utility capital reserves, and then we have 50,000 sitting in an operating reserve fund that in January we will bring to council to pass a motion to move that 50K into our operating fund, out of reserves into operating. We are going to need every penny of it. So we have a lot of things to do, and at this point in time, the discussion is we've got to do what's necessary to secure the well that we have. I say well, even though there's 2, they act in unison. So in reality, we've got a well and we've got one set of infrastructure, and we need to make sure that it's we're being as proactive as we can. And so there's a lot of work planned for the summer. And then we will be in January sitting down, spending a lot of time outlining additional information around that for the general public. We committed to putting out a water report. So we're going to produce a 1-pager with some facts, information around what we're going to spend that money on, and maybe what our water rates will look like in the future. There will be no increase for 2024. And we will be determining in the new year so that we can advise public in advance what the rate is we need to achieve overall to be on par with other municipalities in the province, and to give us more than 200 in any given year to play with. Anybody have any questions?
Maybe not on utility, but just
Yep.
Just going forward, what I'd like to have, and I kind of talked to Jennifer a little bit on this too, is I'd like to have a monthly report, a budget report, like going back to the way we used to have it, so that way there we
Yeah.
can see the general public, for transparency, can see
Yeah.
where we are, who's behind, or who's ahead.
Yep, so I will share on the finance committee, we had this discussion and the commitment was already there. Given Jennifer is jumping into a lot of things we gave her reprieve because some of it was just not going to be overly of value to you anyway this year. So we just said we don't need to see any reporting at this point. But in January, we will be getting regular financial updates. As was stated with the finance committee meeting, we will not be doing, so when we look at our new structure of how we're reporting our numbers, it matches what Jennifer is using to submit to the province. So we were doing an iteration outside of that that maybe made it a little easier for directors to understand and follow, but we are not going to duplicate effort anymore. And so at this point, we've scrapped that. We are going to continue to report exactly how this is laid out for ease for financial. And we're all intelligent people and we can figure this out. Again, as I was going through the categories, we went through what is constituted in each category. The directors will, it'll be a quick learning curve for them to get used to new reporting. So our reporting is going to look slightly different moving forward. Because of that, there will be no year over year comparison because we have to start clean. Next year, we'll see year over year comparison. But it's a really big, different year anyway, so I'm not overly worried. I feel like I have a much better grasp on the budget since we actually had to do it this year. So, hey, this is our first actual budget as a council. So, but yes, on a regular monthly basis, we will be getting a financial summary from Jen as well as her own notes. So if there's something wonky, she's going to tell us in her director report anyway. So I don't think we'll have to really rely on fishing through and you picking up on these things. Jennifer's going to outline it in detail for you. You won't have to really struggle.
Just long as we've got the numbers. that's
Yep.
how we'll look
Yep.
Going forward,
Yep. Oh yeah.
So
I mean,
it's like overtime stuff like that, like.
Yep.
I was on the finance committee, I'm seeing some overtime in certain departments, we had a good discussion with that.
yes.
So I just want to keep a close eye on that.
Yes.
Make sure they're all in line.
Mhm. Yep. And I think the CAO and the director of finance will be working towards those things anyway. So again, they're already going to be well ahead of the question that you're going to ask. You probably will never have to ask that question. That information is going to be handed to us. If there's a spike or it's over budget by quarter of the way through the year, we won't have to fish for it. We'll be told. I feel confident in that. So I think we'll live and learn a bit this year, right? And that was similar to the last. They were living, breathing documents, the finances, for a long time, just to get the information that we needed. So, Jen's pretty cooperative, and I'm sure if once we get rolling and there's something that we really want to see, we can ask, and if she's can provide, and I'm sure she's pretty amenable to that, we'll get through that this year. Yeah.
Some of these numbers that we went over, like over the
Yeah.
last couple of weeks, it's making me understand this a lot easier.
Yeah.
I thank you for that, Jim, I really do, it's been really good to see.
Where are we on the different systems? Now, the civic center.
That is going to be an ongoing process this year. Yeah, may not be quite known.
Oh.
But
It's still on the docket, so.
it's on the CAO and the director of finance. It will take some time to, but again, going back to 2024 is a year to get our ship in order. Ship in order. Clarity. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, so there are lots of things that will be explained to the staff and those impacted as we roll through 2024. So, and council has a number that we have kind of directed straight from us. And CAO is working on a number of items, as is Director of Finance Jen. that just Shirley and Director of HR, there are so many things in motion right now. Some of them are going to take more time than others, but I do feel as we move through 2024, that will come up on CAO's update reports and Director of Finance's reports, and then when we do see the HR Director, her reports as well. Fair? Anyone else have any questions?
I would just like
Yeah.
to say, with the CCBF, it would be
Yes.
2024 to 2028.
2020.
If it's 5
It is
years,
five
it's
years,
5.
yes, okay.
And in fiscal services, it's not just debt.
Yeah.
It's also our capital.
Right.
Right.
Our capital's in fiscal.
Our
Thank you,
capital's in
Jen.
that amount too.
That's why you're here, Jen. But on that note, if we don't have any further questions, anybody else have any other questions? Go for it, yeah.
So you expect to have this, like, the hard copy budget out to the general public?
It will go to the province tomorrow, and depending on when they approve it, then once it's approved, it's.
It's a
will be
public
on our
document.
website. Yeah,
Okay, so when you send a copy over to Jim, then press
once
that
it's approved, yes.
Once it's approved, yeah. He was right and furious, so I can probably give him some numbers there. What's new?
I guess I've always preferred to wait till. it
Yeah,
comes back
I think
approved,
because this is our first, we're gonna wait.
just in case there's any.
In case there's any errors or, changes. But the general ones, I can give you a summary, Jim, of the high levels stuff for tonight at least. Most important thing everyone is going to want to know is how does it affect my pocket? And so that they'll know once their tax assessment comes in the mail and do the math. Okay. Any other questions? So I would like to thank our Director of Finance, Jen Crabb. It was a big effort this year to get through all of this, and with a new CIO in play and some new directors in roles overseeing budgets for maybe the first time. And well done. Thank you so much for all your patience, because I asked for tweaks and changes right up until the 11th hour, and she was very amenable to any change, and so I appreciate all the effort, and thank the Finance Committee for the time, and that committee will be meeting on a regular basis as well to do deeper dives into things. So you're going to see a lot ahead of even what the before council sees it, right? So the Finance Committee as well, we were looking to add a couple of members with accounting backgrounds or designations onto that committee as well. So we will be looking to do that in the new year. We really didn't bother doing it for this year after Jen came in, just simply because we knew we weren't going to really be producing very valuable financial reports. So I feel good about that moving forward. So are we ready? I got a lot of motions to read. So, Councillor Martin, I'm actually going to give you, if you're okay with it, because in reality, it probably should be a committee member and someone else to read these motions. Are you good? We talked about that today, and I'm going to give you a heads up when the first meeting back. So we're going to read that motion and ask for. Whenever you're ready.
All right, so motion 9.4, motion to accept operating budget. Motion be it resolved that the Council of the Local Government of Woodstock resolves that the sum of $16,646,600 be the total operating budget of the local government. With that sum of $14,163,161 be the warrant of the local government for the ensuing year, and that the tax rates for the local government are as follows. Ward 1,
.7000, Ward 2.7000, Ward 3.7000, Ward 4, 1.5000, and Ward 5.7000. The council orders and directs the levying by the Minister of Local Government of said amount on real property liable to taxation under the Assessment Act within the local government of Woodstock. Be it further resolved that the council of the municipality of the town of Woodstock set the non-residential tax base rate at 1.7.
Good. Yes, we're just so that I know when he's done. Do we have someone want to move that? Whoa, moved by Councilor Bradbury right off the bat. Seconder, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Last chance. Any questions, concerns? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Ready for the next one, Councilor Martin?
Sure. 9.5, motion to accept utility operating budget. Motion. Be it resolved that pursuant to subsection 117.4 of the Local Governments Act, the total budget for the water and wastewater utility for the ensuing year will consist of total revenues of $2,063,647, and the total expenditures of $2,063,647.
Mover?
So moved.
We'll move by Councilor McCartney, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Any questions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Councilor Martin, are we, is the next one the VIA?
Okay,
Yes.
so 9.5.
No, I just have it as a subsection.
Okay, perfect. So, yeah, keep on going. Carry on.
9.5.1, motion to accept business improvement levy. Motion, be it resolved that the council of the local government of Woodstock enacted by bylaw that a business improvement levy be imposed on all non-residential property within the business improvement area of the local government that is liable to taxation under the Assessment Act. The levy shall be in the amount of $30,107, rounded up at the rate of 0.20 cents.
Anyone want to move on that? Moved by Councilor Williams, seconded by Councilor Bradbury. Any questions on that? Did you have a thought? No? Okay. You sure? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Last one is, oh, okay. So, thank you. You might get that job, I said you might get that job for the year of 2024. Congratulations, folks. We just passed our first budget. Yeah. It's a big one. Okay, so moving on to item 9.6. Repeal of Sunday shopping bylaw number A251, technically -1. So, after some questions and digging, okay, see you guys. Thank you. We need to do a little updating on this based on the information that you were provided. Usually we get this stuff all sorted out before it gets to council. However, we're going to discuss it right here in public. So there was no record of a bylaw that was amended back in December of 2017. So the compliance officer who received this did not have the proper copy of the bylaw, nor did the individual who looked on our website where the old bylaw existed and the record Laura had and the record in the vault and every record that we could possibly have did not refer to this amended version. So Councilor Bradbury questioned, because he was there back in 2017, knew that there was an exception made, which we understood there was an exception made, we couldn't figure out what they did. So at that point, we had to go do some digging and find some reports right to the 11th hour, right at about 4 o'clock today. I was still digging and photocopying. But we did find the record of the regular council meeting that was held on December 18th, 2017, where they amended bylaw number A251. So bylaw A251-1 was amended to include a section as follows. The hours of operation a retail business may open or operate on a weekly day of rest shall be from 1,200 hours to 1,700 hours, except where the weekly day of rest falls on Christmas Eve and or New Year's Eve. Then the hours may be from 800 hours to 1,700 hours. So the original question that was asked was, can we get that exception again? So now that we know that this was the intent, so we also found, it was in the wrong book, but we still managed to dig it up today. Thank you, Geraldine. The where the special council meeting was held on December 21st, 2017, to do the third reading. So that third reading was motioned and carried. So this should be the bylaw we're referencing now. So on that note, the intermediate concern that the individual came to us with is solved. But on that note, in all of the conversations and in checking with other municipalities, we would be in the very tiny minority, possibly the only council left that has, or municipality left that has, a Sunday shopping bylaw that's restricting hours. So I think tonight we are under no pressure to do a repeal, because again, as we were trying to figure out what are the proper steps, the direction Laura had received was to simply repeal the bylaw. But when you get reading the Days of Rest Act and you get reading the directions in the FAQ that's on the government site, it's all very contradictory. Even the FAQ contradicts itself. So we're not 100% sure exactly what we're supposed to do, but there are a number of municipalities that simply just repealed it. So at this point in time, I think for tonight, I'd like to discuss if everybody is ready to allow businesses to set their own operational hours and at least establish our intent with this. And then that way, maybe the recommendation is to tonight, instead of doing first and second reading to repeal, we allow time for the clerk to really truly find out exactly what it is we're supposed to have, because there's a debate whether we should have a bylaw that states specifically businesses can choose the hours that they want. So it appears as there's a small mixture, but the majority, it looks like they simply repealed it. But again, we're just trying to do the right thing here. And at least we caught the fact that we would, if we were to do a first and second reading, it would be for bylaw A-251-1 versus. So we would potentially repeal the wrong bylaw tonight had we not dug all this up. So before I share anything more, I guess I would open it to the floor for anyone to speak on this and any thoughts or opinions anyone has. Obviously, to date, we have not consulted with general public or business owners, but this came out in 2004. There is not a whole lot of restrictions happening across the province. Other provinces just don't restrict at all. There is no Sunday shopping thing. I know the province of Nova Scotia. Go ahead, Councillor Williams.
I was gonna say, just for reference, that the Day of Rest Act from the province of New Brunswick is from 1985. So,
So,
So what you're saying is to look at what the province has, the contradicts themselves.
well, just in what we're supposed to do. So we don't understand
Some of the language.
to a definitive degree.
Right.
If we repeal tonight, is that all we need to do? Or do we still need a bylaw that references the fact that businesses are free to choose their hours? So there's a little mixture of that for municipalities. Some of them just
What you
repealed it.
found, though, in 8251 dash 1.
Was
actually
just
looks
the,
Actually looks after what.
what the request was, at least for Christmas.
well,
Eve
his
this
first
year.
request, he
Yes.
also requested, can't, like,
But the good news is we're
Yes.
not on a time crunch.
Yeah, we're not
We
on a
know
time
we're okay
crunch.
for
It looks
Christmas Eve.
after what he immediately.
his immediate need. Absolutely.
This is my opinion, but I would say that he's what he wants right now. But
We take our
just
time.
say we take our time and we get some feedback. and visit
Yeah.
and find out exactly what the problem is.
Yep.
We said, maybe it's brought to their attention, maybe we'll take some time and
Well,
look at their own things and
yeah, I doubt that's going to happen, but I think it's just a matter of Laura just needs to
Just be able to.
just figure out, and again, with trying to sort this out today, we just surely ran out of time, and maybe there's a response in an email that we haven't just read yet that definitively tells us exactly what we need to do. The answer, or the big decision we need to make is, do we want to open it up and eliminate the restriction from right now? We restrict businesses to noon to 5 on Sunday that don't meet some other known exception. Because there are exceptions that obviously are fast food restaurants open, emergency. There's a lot of exceptions. Most businesses do have some flexibility, but some businesses that are more retail or grocery store oriented do not. So
I would just say, I would be open to repealing the bylaw tonight. I think the thing that concerns me would be, if retailers and business owners aren't on a level playing field with other communities in the province, what's stopping people from jumping in a car and making an extra trip to Fredericton or wherever to do shopping when perhaps they could be staying in Woodstock to spend their dollars? So from that standpoint, I also would say, I could also see the concern from maybe small business owners versus the big box stores. Smaller business owners may struggle to find staffing for more hours, which I do see that standpoint. But I think ultimately, in my opinion, I'd like to leave it up to individual businesses to decide when they want to be open. So on that note, I'd feel comfortable repealing it and seeing where the chips fall.
Yeah. The other option is if we repeal it tonight, if everybody's comfortable tonight, there's a secondary kind of situation where this is first and second reading. We still have to do a third reading. So it can change. So if on third reading, we A, change our mind, or we B, need to still have a bylaw that states and clarifies we're doing this, we're allowing businesses to choose their own, then we can do that and correct it all and fix it all by third reading. The only concern I have is the timeline in between that we're mandated to do within second reading and third.
We just have to call the special meeting. and
We
some
would, but if we
hours
needed more time,
Between the second and third reading.
yeah, is it 2 weeks or is
No,
there?
we have longer than that.
Yeah, longer than that, yeah, so
It's
just
fine.
making sure,
I believe.
Mark,
Yeah.
It's a rush, I mean, knowing that we're good for Christmas Eve.
yeah, for the big thing, Christmas Eve and New
Yeah.
Year's.
Yeah, I agree to do a little work or whatever, you work, we should work. But the next 2 weeks here, we got a couple of big days, and I imagine you probably get a lot of phone calls here. You know, if they gotta make a decision like now.
Yeah.
But if they can open up for longer hours on Sunday.
Yeah, Christmas Eve's the big urgency.
But right now they
You
can.
gotta.
But that's
Yeah.
what
To
we're
that
saying, the
amendment.
amendment lets them do it.
Right now they
I know,
can.
that decision's got it, like,
We don't have a decision.
We don't have to
it's
make
already-
that
It's
decision.
the one you guys made in 2017.
okay, I'm not talking about,
Even
I'm
use.
talking
Yeah.
this year right now. It's
Yes,
important for
yeah.
these retailers to make a decision, they gotta know, like, it is a busy time of the year.
Yeah.
but what we're saying is bylaws you guys passed is 251-1 from 2017, you passed that. It's still on.
It wasn't just for that year, 2017.
Yeah.
It was all Christmas
Sorry.
Eve.
Yeah.
I think that's where
New
you're,
So
yes.
the next two, the next two Sundays.
We got time.
Uh,
It's wide open.
no,
No.
not this next one.
No.
Just
Christmas
Christmas
Eve.
Eve.
Christmas Eve.
And New
New Year's Eve.
I hear you. It's been one of those
Yeah.
days. So this covers them at least for they can extend, and I get where they're coming from. And this is an odd one. It's hasn't come up again since 2017 because, as you saw in your background, it only lands on Sunday once every 6 years. So again, it just hasn't hit the calendar since 2016, and unfortunately, the whatever happened with the bylaw it never got updated. So those business owners are still seeing it as the old one, but there is no exception. So we can try and get word out there at least maybe that the bylaw does allow for businesses to choose their hours on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. And then after that, it gives us time to find out how we repeal it, if we're going to repeal it. And I know everybody's may have their mind made up on whether to repeal it or not today, but this gives Laura time. But it's up to you guys in reality. Yeah.
You just said choose your hours, but when you read the amendment, didn't it specify like?
Oh, yes. Sorry. Yes, you're right.
8 to
From
5
8 till
on
5.
Sunday.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So that's
On
what we
both
need to
days.
get out,
Yeah,
that they
so
can
we
be
need
open
to-
8 to 5 Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve this year.
Yeah.
Based on the amendments in 2016.
And as you noticed, timely enough, we did get more feedback from a citizen about why this still like why does this exist. So interesting, we just got that in the last few days and from somebody else. So I think ultimately we're rare to be restricting. So I'm not sure that that's necessary. If you go back to the very initial premise, it was based on employees, ensuring employees got a day of rest. So if we go back to the 1985 Act, it's probably not necessary anyway, in my opinion, given all of the rules that are under the Employee Labor Standards Act that employers are to use. What they're mandated to provide specific days of rest. Yes, not every business is specific and closed on Sundays. There's lots of businesses that are continuous operations. There's lots of businesses that would be considered emergency or provided the exception to be open, and that's an exorbitant amount of businesses anyway are exempt from the act. So really we're restricting a small portion of businesses, and we'd be a very small minority in the province. Nova Scotia does none of that. There's no,
Well, if we ever get a bond
Yeah.
in New Brunswick, we'll have to update it anyway. Because they work, 21 on, 21 off.
they're an
and
exception.
They're on the exception, aren't they?
I would just suggest that we take it the first year.
Yeah.
Maybe you
I'm,
get a lot
yep,
of fun, you have that special meeting, do it tonight, and that's-
Yes. Yeah. We're not that further ahead if we do first and
We're
second.
just holiday season, I was gonna ask, if we repealed it tonight, though, would that mean that business owners can choose to open this Sunday?
We have that special meeting.
No,
They
it
wouldn't
wouldn't
be
get
able
them
to.
any further ahead, Will, because the earliest we could do would be Monday, the 18th. So that's after the Sunday.
And I will say, based on what we read in the New Brunswick Day of Rest Act, it's possible that even though all these other cities and towns have no bylaw about it, it's possible that you're still going against the New Brunswick Day of Rest Act. So there's a whole lot to figure out.
Yeah, we just don't want to be the one to open that can of worms for every other municipality in the
Woodstock.
province. Yeah, but so
make a motion to table.
Yes, okay.
Second.
Typically, if we make a motion to table, it would have to be the next meeting. So our first meeting in January, be prepared for this. Okay, so we will take.
First and second.
Yeah, so for first and second, and, chat with some people. Chat with community member. Yeah, ask your wife. Yeah, chat with people over the holidays, gauge the room, but ultimately, again, we're in a massive minority that to be restricting, and so if we do continue to restrict, that now that we've opened the can of worms, we could give flack just in doing that. So give it some consideration, and we will discuss it in our first meeting in January. Is that good? Are we good?
Yeah,
Do we need a motion for that? A
We
full.
we just did.
Okay, so Mark has tabled the motion. We're gonna do, you guys are gonna, just heads up, gonna be doing that a lot more. I've always passed the motions, but we're gonna shift that responsibility. We'll do a training session and we're gonna talk about it. But, so Mark tabled that motion on his own, which all of you as counselors can table a motion yourselves. So we're gonna talk a bit more about that in the new year, but, so would someone like to,
Councillor Williams.
Councillor Williams? Well, Mark put it on the table. We still have to have a mover and a seconder, correct? You can't, I think
You can't
he,
make it and move it.
yeah, I don't think so,
Right.
right?
Oh,
So
that makes sense.
moved
I
by,
move that, what he said. Good, yeah.
seconded by Councillor Leach. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. Okay. Let's win that little green card that we don't have at our, our little short Robert's Rules of Orders card is, we haven't been carrying it with us, but,
Back in
Okay.
January.
yeah. Okay, next, is item number 9.7, the Woodstock Golf and Curling Club sponsorship / MOU. So everybody was provided a little bit of background on that. Ultimately, we have decided as a council, and we've been working through this a lot this year. We will be working through more of it, I'm sure, through 2024, where we need everything to be in writing and transparent. So if we have an agreement with an association or a business, it must be in writing, so that it can be understood between both parties and carried forward for future councils, and also budgeted and tracked appropriately. So this came up in conversations around snow plowing. We have in the past provided in-kind snow plowing services for the Woodstock Golf and Curling Club. So they didn't love hearing at this late juncture that was not on our plan and radar. So, but it is a decision of council to decide whether we want to do that. So again, I would say everybody got the backgrounders. So if there's some options there, and CAO can expand on a little bit of this too, but we could consider whether to extend in-kind again, at least for this year, so that we can better understand what the true cost might be, and especially where it was late notice for them. We've tried to steer away from big in-kind historically for us, so there is the notion of maybe just picking the sponsorship amount and cutting the check, which that would then come out of our community fund amount. But that puts it in a different financial bucket and takes maybe CAO, you could speak to them about just the operational side of things, please.
My concern with doing it in kind ourselves is threefold. It's one, liability, because we are now liable for the quality of that work and the timing of that work. our public streets and public parking lots and public requirements have to come first. So that opens up, we will be late and we could be liable. It's also the visibility of our trucks on private property, private businesses. Why is the town of Woodstock up there? Why is it not coming to do my place? And those are my two big concerns there. So my preference, if I may, would be to do the in-kind and the cash sponsorship, allow them to hire somebody, because my third point is by us doing it, we're potentially taking business away from a local business. We're competing with town equipment with local business. So I would prefer to do the cash, and to assist them in financing their own, because there are contractors who are doing it.
Yeah, we did at least receive one quote that we know of, so. So that's some feedback to consider from the operational side of things. I will say, as provided in the backgrounder, they do offer in-kind in exchange back to us. So they're offering I need to pull that document up. I've got all these other ones open. Yes, thank you.
Which would assist if we did the cash.
Yes, so regardless of whether we would enter into an agreement either way. And they are offering at no cost to give us no cost access to their property for winter events hosted and organized by the town of Woodstock, including sliding, snowshoeing, or cross country. Yeah, okay. And then no cost use of the clubhouse and lounge, including staffing for a snowshoe, poker rally, or similar event, and to allow Public Works to improve access on their property for difficult to reach town infrastructure near the golf club. Do you want to throw your thought in there?
Oh, I just wanted to do something that we have a contentious meeting coming up, we know it's we're in a public conversation, not working with them again.
Yeah.
Too many more, so maybe the golf club might be interested in,
Yes.
providing their upstairs for special council, when we know when that crowd.
Yeah, we have talked to that. I've actually viewed the room.
Yeah, we've had, the PAC has always tended to do their public meetings where they know they're going to draw a crowd there, and that the setup is good and works well. The room's good size.
I guess my comment would be is, it is a unique relationship, I think, the town has with the Woodstock Golf Course. There's a lot of history there. There's a lot of different activities and things that go on at the Woodstock Golf Course that brings in a lot of business to the community. We mentioned the sliding night and different fundraisers that they do. I liked your suggestion, Alan, about your points were well noted about liabilities and that. So I think I would like to keep a good relationship with them, and I like the idea of coming with just some type of an agreement, whether it's a sponsorship or something to help them out for this year. Maybe some unforeseen costs.
I agree, especially the liability part.
Yeah.
If we get something or whatever. It is a year-round recreational facility. So I agree with the cash.
Yeah.
I agree too.
Yeah. So thoughts, guys, on this side?
Starting this year?
Well,
Do you think that's what we're not
well,
doing
we need
this
to,
year?
the most we would do tonight, it would make a recommendation for, so per this, we need to decide, are we gonna do cash, are we gonna do in kind? What type of term? Do we wanna just go with 1 year to start so we can, have a little more time to absorb this, before, no, we need to do,
The agreement was verbal from last year, which is why I didn't know about it when it
Yeah.
came. And for the record, for the last snowstorm, even after we had said no, for the last snowstorm, we did go plowing.
Yeah.
Okay, but we would create a new MOU that will not take long.
Yeah. But that is basically the next step if we need to enter into an agreement with them.
The partnership has been longstanding.
Yeah.
And important. It's a centralized, visible, vibrant part of our community. I think that's important to take into consideration when we're weighing all the terms, your points of policy, CAO. I think we do need to take into account they are giving us a lot of in-kind services. We were sworn in their, their facility. And so the room as magazine is perfect in size and shape for that, centralized, and the sledding party is a lot of fun, even though I'm not a fan of the cold. I have participated for several years in that, and I think that the kind of services that they are providing with access and stuff, as long as the long-standing relationship there needs to be some relationship.
So would it be appropriate for someone to table a motion to ask for the council, or for the CEO or staff to?
I think we just,
Just
historically,
ask.
just make a recommendation. We don't need a motion on it. But
It's possible though that this, everything you're saying that they still do for us in kind would
Correct.
be included in the
Yeah.
MOU, whether it's a sponsorship
Correct.
Yeah.
or in kind anyway,
Correct.
Yeah.
right?
I think we just need to give direction to the CAO. Are we leaning towards a cash donation, or do we want to do in kind? I'm
We need to go
feeling,
with his recommendation.
yeah,
Yes.
What Alan was saying.
Yeah.
mhm, yeah.
Maybe they need to get a quote.
They already have a
There you
quote,
go.
so
And the cash amount we're looking at
would be
7,500.
70, I don't think we should do any more than 7,500. And my recommendation would be to do a 1-year term, just
Yeah.
let's pause. Again, this is kind of net new to us, that there was some type of verbal agreement in past years, but we're all on the same page with, we want to have a relationship, but this also will take kind of an unexpected amount out of our community fund right off the top. But it's fine. At this point in time, we just need to decide, I would say, the amount to me, because they gave us the estimate on the low end. That would be the fair. Just agree to give them 7,500. I would just like the caveat to be for us. I'm not sure that we're restricting. We're going to give them a cash donation. They're going to use it towards whatever, because maybe the plowing only costs them $4,000 this year because there's only 3 major snowstorms. I don't know, or they don't need to plow it. So I think we have to accept that we won't necessarily be babysitting or requesting. I think that's a little much. So I think it's free and clear, like other organizations, we're giving you X dollars towards your operations in a partnership with you. Obviously, we know that they need it for their plowing, but if they can't produce receipts that prove that it's 7,500, we're not asking for the money back. So I think that I like the cash just simply because it puts it, for me, mentally in the appropriate bucket.
If I may, the in-kind is not free.
No,
Right? And
nothing's free.
Public Works estimate the machine time, the person time, and the material time, and it can actually very
Close
close
to
to
it,
that.
yeah.
And like you said, then you add liability and all
Yeah.
this
And then
on
you
top
add
of it, it could be a lot more.
And as we've discussed some other areas, that'll come up later in 2024. It's an opportunity for another business to take this on. We don't need the work. So let's let somebody else benefit. So it's kind of a double bonus. We're going to help them, and some other business is going to get a $7,500
Well, and
contract
we-
out of
and we
it.
get things in kind back.
Yeah.
They listed, so.
Yeah. So I think that's when we go ahead, Councilor Bradley.
Just a thought, inside this MOU, would it be worth it to have one of us counselors sit on the board of directors? So we have a good insight there.
Yeah, that's what we've been doing.
As in anyone who we sign an MOU with, we need to have a representative.
Yeah, it's, you
Someone
know,
will do that on the table, yes.
yeah, it's a vibrant club, you know.
Yeah.
and they've got concerns and stuff like that. I've talked to several of the members and stuff like that, so that might be a good way to keep the relationship strong, you
Mhm.
know, between town and all the girl stuff.
Mhm.
So maybe.
Yep.
Alan would go back to support, so might be an idea.
Okay, so I feel like the recommendation is for staff to formulate a an MOU between us and the Woodstock Golf and Curling Club. We intend to provide an amount of $7,500, no more, and to Councilor Bradbury's point and Deputy Mayor's point, differentiating if they'd be willing to allow us to use the room upstairs for special meetings every once in a while. And typically we have, that's already, were doing that without a written agreement, so. And then again, just the
For a one-year
board
term.
member,
Yeah.
would they be amenable to that? Because I think where we're sitting on those boards, it has been effective, right? Even with the airport, right? I don't know how we'd have really gotten to where we needed to be without Lauren attending that meeting to kind of flag, I think there's some confusion, and then that came back. So it's helpful to have one of us around some of these tables. We're all participating on different committees and boards, and it is, I think, engaging us at a different level. And I'm quite sure Nick would love it, like,
Yeah.
as an operator, would love and welcome, because he came and presented to us at our community meeting, and they're working to get a better working relationship with us anyways. Go ahead, so were you, did you?
No, I was just saying 1 year term.
1 year term.
Yes,
Yes.
1 year term, so we can, and then give them a little bit of thought to think about really what it is they need and want. Okay. Got everything? All right. Last item, item number 9.8, internet solution for Connell Park Raceway and Grandstand. So there's been some events there this past year that have tried to use or get a satellite internet set up, the harness racing, and we know the snowmobile racing event is going to need it. And at this point, I think if the opportunity is, and we're all in desire to see the whole grandstand racetrack area be better utilized, we need to come into the 21st century and maybe have some internet. So in conversations with the driving club and the Old Home Week Committee, and with town representatives at that meeting, it really makes the most sense operationally. We already have internet at this facility that's close enough. And probably for this, it makes the most sense for us to just own that piece. So what we're tonight need to decide is everyone in support of this. The easiest would be just go to the provider we already have, ask them, what's it gonna take to get fiber over there that's gonna be in a receptive enough area that everybody will capture it there. And then what's that add to our monthly cost? It will be the cheapest way to do this, and it's under operational jurisdiction. If we're saying we're kind of gonna approve that, then I think the CAO can see it through. And we need to act fast because the races are mid-February and our provider is Bell. And it'll probably take them right up until, so we need to get them on it and get on the list. And so I'll open it. That's the background on it. I'll open the floor for any thoughts or comments. Again, it is time sensitive. Sorry to kind of throw this one out there, but I don't really perceive it being a huge cost to us. But again, we will benefit if we're doing our own things there, and everybody can benefit. And as we move forward and try and, we had a really good meeting as a group, and the notion is to really work together, or the town to take ownership of kind of the overall operation and be having user agreements with, so Old Home Week, Driving Club. So some of the costs we would bake into fees of people using the space and their agreements. So I don't think it's necessarily going to be a cost we need to shoulder all of, but it's going to be the cheapest for us to do it, as opposed to having someone else have some type of account over there. that will be challenging to do in time for February. So, anyone have?
Great idea.
Yeah.
We need it for next
Yeah.
week.
Okay, that's everybody in favor. Do we want to make a motion on this one? Just because I think it's an easy one.
Sure.
Good with that? Dave, would you like to make that motion? Or would you like to table it? You asked the question. Would someone like to make a motion too? Moved by Councillor Leach, seconded by Councillor Bradbury. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. Now it's all on you, Alan. No pressure. Yeah, that's good. And okay, so that moves us down to item number,
Next meeting
Oh,
date.
yeah, 10th, which is our next meeting date, which will be Tuesday, January 9th, 2024. We've got a bit of a break, guys, and I think I can say we've earned it. It's been a really busy year. I'm very proud of our council. I say it all the time. I remind you guys all the time that I say it all the time. But this was a heavy year. We had a lot of things to do and a lot that were done on operational sides that the general public may or may not be able to totally recognize or see. But I think the staff certainly have, and the general public in general will, because the better we function, the better our service that we provide is, and then the happier our customers are, who are community members. So thank you all for a really good first year. I appreciate all of your effort. We met a lot. When we started in January, I basically said, reserve your Tuesdays for the foreseeable future. And we really did use most of them for the whole year. So I really appreciate all the time and commitment that you've put in. And I look forward to 2024. I think we're in a good position moving forward. We're getting there. We've got a little ways to go, but we got a CAO that's on top of things and providing really good leadership to the directors, and a good team to take us forward. So with that, for anybody that's still listening, though there's probably not anyone, collectively, we wish everyone a good holiday, however you choose to celebrate it, and Happy New Year, and we look forward to serving you in 2024. Could I get a motion? One last one of the year. To move into committee the whole. You guys thought we were done. Can I get, Councillor Williams moved, seconded Councillor Bradbury. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried.
Motion to let Jim leave.
Poor Jim.